Welcome to Blaze Weekly News Podcast. This is podcast number 226 this week here as we close out the month of July. Podcast 226, riding shotgun, Rachel Nelson. How are you, Rachel?
Oh, I'm doing pretty good. How are you?
Good. And also, I've been catching your reports.
Yes.
On Notorious TV.
Yes, I have actually a video that's going to come out tomorrow that's probably the juiciest one I've done. And it is Texas politics related, but it's not cannabis related. So I'll just throw that out there.
I like that you're doing that too. And it's really good too. So I like your segments and the look. It's purple and if you haven't checked out, plug your thing. So tell them.
So if you go to YouTube and you type the notorious.tv, but you have to spell out notorious.tv, then you'll find me. And I'm on Instagram too. So yeah, it's fun. It's really fun. I'm really into storytelling and like investigative journalism.
Well, you used to do a blog that was, you had a food blog thing that you did years ago.
I've done some work in the culinary space as a freelancer. Yeah.
Yeah, you've done all kind of stuff over the years, so it's good to see you kind of settling in on your own channel over there. So good stuff there. Joining us in studio this week, Colton Luther from the Texas Growers Podcast in studio. We thought it'd be a good idea to cross promote with you, sir. How are you, Colton?
Howdy. Happy to do that. Love that.
Cool, man. Welcome to Round Rock and our studio here. And then joining us in the cloud from North Carolina is our attorney buddy, Rod Kight, with Kight on Cannabis from North Carolina. Welcome to the podcast again. Good to see you once again. We always check in a couple of times a year with Rod Kight to get a break and get him on to talk to us a little bit about the national scene. And welcome to the show. How are you, Rod?
Yeah, it's good to see you again, Russell, Rachel. It's been a while, and so it's always nice to come on and check in with y'all. And certainly, with what's going on right now in Texas, it's the time to talk. So really happy to be here.
Well, I know that you have a number of clients in Texas. I think there's clients of mine that advertise with us that are actually, lean on you for legal advice. You got a number of, you support a number of industry here in the Lone Star State, don't you, Rod?
I have. I'm fortunate to represent quite a number of clients in the Texas, whether they're in Texas, selling into Texas, selling out of Texas, the whole thing. So yeah, absolutely. We've been following Texas for years and years and years. I remember, in fact, when Texas first came online with its first version of its hemp law years and years ago. And I remember I was waiting for it and I immediately blogged about it. I could probably pull that date up, but it's been years. And so anyway, Texas, great state and always following because it's a bellwether state in a lot of ways. Yeah.
Rod, I know on a side note, man, that some of my producer clients that have brands in Texas that have expressed concern for where the future of Texas hemp may be going, especially from importing it into the state. A lot of my colleagues and advertisers were looking at going to North Carolina because of the uncertainty of Texas ability to serve Texas clients. It still leaves the rest of the states that are, I don't know, however many of them are there. You probably know right off the top of your head how many states there are for hemp, Rod. But isn't that that's a concern that some of the brands have. They may have to move to Oregon or Oklahoma or maybe even in your neck of the woods there in North Carolina.
Yeah, well, I mean, when you talk about hemp in the United States and really a breadth of products and a really strong industry, I mean, the two states that stand out are Texas and North Carolina, and the West Coast, which has sort of embedded marijuana interest, but a lot of really good growers, a lot of really good brands. When they call me and they say, "Hey, we're going to expand into the hemp sector, but we can't do it in California or Washington or whatnot. Where should we go?" And really, Texas and North Carolina are the two states that always pop up. And so, for that reason, and certainly given the size of Texas, it's really important that Texas prevails in this legislative special session. But North Carolina, I'm really proud of my home state. We've got an amazing hemp industry here, and just a full breadth, from really super high quality growers to the top brands in the world, literally. So we're really happy here in North Carolina as well.
Rod, this year is from an advertising point. I've had clients in the magazine that are from Florida, some California, but I've had one or two that sprinkle in there that are from North Carolina as well. So some of those guys that are have great grow operations, they like to brand into the Texas area to see what the retailers think of their products. So it's pretty cool. North Carolina always on the radar with Texas in that regard.
Yep. There's a good connection between the two states for sure.
Well, let's bring in Colton, and I had a comment here. I saw Colton Luther. I saw you had one of your reels on your YouTube had something interesting that I saw this morning. THC only allowed if a doctor gets paid and the cops sell it to you. It's in the state it's called a state-run monopoly, I guess is what we call that. But I thought it was funny that you mentioned that on your reel.
Yes.
Could elaborate on that and why you said that, because it's weird. We got DPS and break that down a little, is because I thought that was a you were really being joking about it, but it's a serious thing, right?
All jokes contain truth, that. I mean, it was just a way to get people's attention and to break it up. And instead of saying it's a state-run monopoly, it's a big word. So it's another way of explaining it in 0.5 seconds or whatever you get on the internet these days. Yeah, but it comes from the teacup program here being a failure, and it doesn't serve Texas the way that it's designed, but yet everyone wants to push us there. At least specific representatives want to push us there, and they tout it as this amazing program that's world renowned or something, and it's not.
Yeah, I keep hearing Charles Perry. Rachel's been saying, "What a great, robust program our teacup program is."
And the unfortunate part, and this is not speculation. You can go watch the testimonies, pull the archives, watch testimonies. People that are actual teacup patients will tell you it's one sign up. I get my thing. I don't see a doctor again. I just go to this one place if I can get there, and I can pay for it. And there's all these different hangups. It's not accessible. It's not effective, and it's controlled by. It's a federally illegal program, right down to it. Rod knows this. It's a federally illegal substance in that program that they're pushing on you, trying to make it, only okay if the doctor gets paid, you pass that threshold, and then the DPS, Department of Public Safety, can control all of it. People are losing their rights. They're still getting arrested and getting hung up. And a lot of these people are just trying to make their life easier, not get heckled by the police. It's just not a great program for Texas. That's really where that reel comes from.
Well, I think the question is, what really the teacup program in particular is a difficult and bad program. But marijuana programs, across the country are failing for various reasons. There's a lot of similar reasons as well, but for reasons. But meanwhile, and especially in a state like Texas that has an existing and good and litigated over and fought over and amended regulatory program for hemp. And it's so strange to me, Colton. I think you bring up the exact point. We've got a framework that works, and certainly maybe there are tweaks, and we can, everyone can argue about what tweaks need to be made, but there is a workable program, and the program that's being pushed is, I love the way you said, it's the federally illegal program that's not working. It's really bizarre.
They've unfortunately just done a bunch. They've taken the wrong. When they come to a fork in the road, they tend to always just go 50-50 and choose the wrong one, and then keep doubling down on it.
Right. Yeah. It's really terrible.
Really strange.
Anything for Rod or Rachel or?
Yeah, I
Colton?
did think of a question for Rod I want to ask before I forget. So you said, there are a lot of parallels between Texas and North Carolina. Has North Carolina had to fight tooth and nail like Texas has to keep hemp?
Yes and no. We haven't had quite the number of battles, but we have had a couple of existential battles, and really two come to mind. And I'll be brief, but one was when smokable hemp first became a thing. This is sort of years before THCA flower and all that, but just smokable hemp generally. And law enforcement pushed very heavily and lobbied. But we had the legislative chambers, our General Assembly was packed with farmers and people in the industry, and we prevailed, and that really pushed back. And then our program was kind of built in to expire, and this was last summer, and it came right up to the very last minute. And if it didn't, we didn't renew it, and hemp was going to be illegal in North Carolina just like that. And so we had another big push, and we prevailed. But and I think unfortunately, this battle that we're seeing, it's really attenuated. It's really strong in Texas. But we're seeing this all over the country. There is such a resistance and such a pushback against hemp, and it's part of it is the long time culture wars and the war on drugs. But of course, a lot of it is other vested interests that don't like hemp because they believe it believes that hemp competes against them.
Right. Yeah. So like Texas, North Carolina, the people have showed up, and that's what's made the difference.
That's exactly right.
Nice.
Well, you probably though North Carolina, Rod, is probably a vote measure state, is it not? Can you get vote? You can get. Can you get issues on a ballot and have them voted? Like that power is held in the Senate here in Texas. We don't have that. Is that my understanding that you guys have a ballot initiative?
No ballot initiatives in North Carolina. So it really is very similar to Texas. The industry's got to come out. And but this is the thing about hemp is it's about cannabis. It's about small businesses. It's about real people doing real stuff. And I love that. But it's always a battle. It really is.
Well, North Carolina, that's part of Tobacco Row, though, and there's an ancient, there's hundreds of years of history of that agriculture, and maybe there's something to be said about that, Rod. I don't know. I'm just recognizing geographically where you guys are in the country, and
Right.
it's certainly a tough challenge here in the Lone Star State with as red as we are, and speaking to that. But let's jump over on the national level with Senator Rand Paul doubling down to save hemp in Congress recently. I think Paul's amendment was to remove provisions that were filed alongside what seems to be a separate compromise option that would ban synthetic cannabinoids such as Delta-8 THC. Ron, can you break some of this down for viewers and readers, listeners tonight?
Yeah, sure. So what we're looking at, kind of the broad way, is we're looking at the fiscal year 2026 appropriations bill. Appropriations bill is what funds the government. So Congress has to pass these appropriations bills, and so because they are sort of must-pass bills, it's really a good time for lawmakers to kind of slip in little things that they want to get in that might be controversial. Well, for this fiscal year, and we've seen this before, there was an amendment in the House side that would have effectively essentially banned, most of the products that the hemp industry relies on and the consumers buy. And then that ban found its way into the Senate version of the bill. And fortunately, we have a really strong supporter for hemp in Rand Paul. But what's interesting from a personality standpoint is the person who was really pushing for the ban on the Senate was Mitch McConnell, who the people watching this podcast probably know. Mitch McConnell is sort of the great grandfather of hemp. I mean, he's the one that got the 2014 Farm Bill for industrial hemp and then pushed the 2018 Farm Bill. But he doesn't like the intoxicating hemp piece. And I think I know he's worried about his legacy. But for that reason, and McConnell does have a lot of power, I think we all assumed that this would pass. It was going to pass with a 1-year sunset, meaning we'd have a year to try to come back and really fight to keep it open. But here comes Rand Paul, who, again, has been a strong supporter for hemp. And he said, no, I'm going to let this, I'm not going to vote for it. I'm going to keep this bill from passing unless you change it. And McConnell kind of backed off and allowed that. So it was a huge deal. So, the House side still has that language. But typically when you have the House and the Senate, voting on the same bill, they have to come to a process called reconciliation to make the bills the same and then go back and pass them. And so I'm pretty confident on reconciliation. We're going to get the bill without the hemp restrictions.
What are the chances of like getting Mitch McConnell, Senator Charles Perry, and Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick all together? Colton, we need to get them together and smoke a bong with them.
I think we're talking about, for some of them, I think there's a generational piece,
Yeah,
and
you're right.
Also, there's just some of them have funders who are, and I'm not going to call any names out, but have really funders that are pushing super conservative, prohibition style, bills, and they've got to do what their funders say, and so I think smoking a bong might not help them.
It's not
funny.
The money
to
that's
watch
pushing
those,
them. Yeah,
it's funny to watch the people that let the genie out of the bottle. They try to take it back. They try to do something quickly. Take it back. Put it back in. Like to me, that's kind of like even political suicide, because it's like, if you didn't trust that I knew what I was doing this first time, how can you be sure that the second time around I actually do know what I'm doing, or the third time, or however many tries Senator Charles Perry has filed the same bill, even just in the last session and special session. So it's the same thing. It's like I did this, and now I wanna ban it. I want to change course. I didn't know what I was doing back then.
Yeah, pull the rug out from underneath. Thousands of businesses, tons of employment. Yeah, no, it's really crazy. But one thing I do like about the fighting is that when we prevail, it every time we prevail, it takes away one more argument that people say, this is a loophole. Is this a loophole?
Amen.
Well, I don't, if it's gone back and been fought over and we're still there, and that's where we are with Congress, that's where we're with Texas right now. How do you call it a loophole when it has been, it's been fought over and we continue to win?
Amen. I keep saying that. I get a lot of flack from the rec and medical markets from other states. Because I go to MJ BizCon, I have this podcast, so I could try to get on a national stage, bring attention here to Texas, and everybody's like, you don't know what you're talking about, it's all hemp, blah, 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 blah. We get a lot of flack for it, and the loophole word always comes up, and it spurs me so bad, because I'm like, okay, well, how do you bank? What happens with your money? Right? That's all I say, and I'm like, cool.
Exactly.
So who's the loophole, dude? I don't understand. Chase Bank and Bank of America, they love me.
Absolutely,
you know what I mean?
Of course they do. Absolutely.
Just do the federally legal stuff, and you have a lot less headaches. And so there's all these little arguments, and I agree with you. Like, it's just one more step closer to kind of closing up all of these. It's the cultural shift. Hemp is really.
Well, we're absolutely seeing, and we're all the last 5 years, all of us that's been in the industry, covering the industry. We've seen a massive influence of culture in recent years, especially the last 5-6 years. I wanted to ask Rod, were you able to see the online hearings of SB 5 the other day? Did you get to catch any of that online?
I haven't, unfortunately, been able to see some of the online hearings. I've been keeping up with it through news and through WhatsApp threads and clients and things like that. But no, I haven't watched the actual stuff.
Well, it's hard to watch as a person covering this industry, and it makes our livelihood in this industry. But Colton, you were down there. Were you there this past Tuesday giving testimony?
Yes.
You were. Tell
Every
us.
time.
It wasn't really a big shock, was it, for SB 3 to be converted now to SB 5? It's really hard to. I talk about this last week or two, that these lawmakers just seem like they're doing, what their puppet masters have, assigned for them to do earlier in the first session. And so here we are. They're just kind of doing the same. It's part two. It's Godfather part 2, Colton.
We have the leverage. They are running the same play multiple times in a row, expecting different results. That's another reel I made we talked about earlier. Like, that's a psychosis.
That's
right?
insanity.
Yeah, that
You're
is
going
psychosis.
around in a circle trying to do the same thing. And we love winning. We really do. And so if these people if they play their hand over and over again, we know what cards they have. So it's a lot easier for us to mobilize and kind of counteract that. That's like the craziest thing. It's just the same play again. We testified in front of the Senate again, and it's like talking to a brick wall.
Yeah.
They don't want to listen. They're not interested.
Well,
in
speaking of the
listening.
same play, I mean, I think I read somewhere that Senator Perry said, if I were alive in the 30s, would I have been a prohibitionist? I probably would have, knowing what I know today. And talking about the same play. So he's saying that, the alcohol prohibition, which is sort of widely and across all cultural boundaries, it was a huge failure. It elevated the mob. We still watching mob movies from the 30s. And he's saying, I would have been a prohibitionist, knowing what I know now. It's it is
it's
a
no
form of
secret.
insanity, I think. Yeah.
We know. Yeah, we can tell by the way that they've behaved and what they've put forward these last few months.
Let me ask either one of you, Rod or Colton, is there are either of you surprised though that there's this language of ban hip rhetoric is coming from the Senate in Texas again?
No,
it's not a shocker, right? I guess they're still having to tote the line of their investors or their I guess they're investors. I don't know if that's the right word.
We talked about how politicians should look like the NASCAR drivers and wear the patches.
Yeah. Hey, the NBA has logos on their jerseys now. Let's just put Miller Anheuser-Busch on Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick's shirt. Let's play around with some graphics next week, Carl.
That's a good one. I think, can we talk about how Dan Patrick has done nothing but help our podcast and Colton's podcast? Like, we've just blown up. Like, thank you so much.
And I'm sure more people need Rod. And it's crazy. I mean, the heat always results in more money. I mean, more people found out that you could get legal, effective, safe THC products in Texas, and that they were at risk. More people found out about THC for the first time than
because of all the drama.
Because of the drama, because it made headlines, because it made newsreels, because it was, we were putting out videos. It was such a buzz for people, and there was so much noise and misinformation, and people think that their rights are being infringed upon, and so it mobilizes people, and it's very emotional. This is a very emotional thing. If it's something that really changes your livelihood, it's a very emotional thing. You're going to be very attached to it.
Yeah.
I don't think they were expecting any of that to happen.
Yeah.
So it's wild.
And I wasn't, the first couple of sessions, this is now my 5th, 6th year, and this is my 3rd session, Colton, but man, the first 2 sessions in the last 6 years, they weren't coming after our businesses, those last 2 sessions, and this time, whoa, this is affecting our livelihood, they're threatening our right to do business, and we're really stuck together as an industry. I'm proud of my fellow Texans. Stay right there. Rod Kight, our guest, along with Colton Luther, and we'll be right back as podcast 226 rolls on after the break, guys. We'll be right back in 2 minutes.
Texas retailers, Empire is a THCA wholesale powerhouse. We deliver reliable and efficient service to keep your shelves stocked and customers satisfied. Offering premium exotic THCA flower, diamond exotic pre-rolls, Looper XL disposables. Inquire about Empire. Ask about our retail white label programs for your stores or brands. Premium flower legally delivered. That's right. Ditch your dealer, get it delivered. Inquire about Empire. Now offering exotic pounds of THCA flower at $420 a pound this spring. Ask about our custom manufacturing hash, blunts, and rosin dab items. Order now before legislative session ends and receive premium delivery services. Visit HempireTX.com. That's HEMPYRETX.com or email sales@HempireTX.com. Dama Botanicals is proud to support the Texas cannabis industry and the work of Blaze Magazine and the Blaze Weekly News Podcast. Dama Botanicals is on a mission to advocate for the education of our community and the destigmatization of cannabis and hemp. We do that by providing high-quality products and services to Austin, Texas, and surrounding areas. Local, loud with Austin roots. Visit DamaBotanicals.com now and use promo code STOCKYOURSTASH and save 20% off your entire order. Hemp is legal for now in Texas, so come on by our store at 1311 311 South 1st Street in Austin, or visit DamaBotanicals.com. Community-driven brands like Dama Botanicals are here until the wheels fall off. Stay informed, stay positive, stay blazed. DamaBotanicals.com. That's DamaBotanicals.com.
Seems to come your way. You don't care if it rains or shine, as long as you know what's been going down in the lockout rodeo. Woman to woman, woman to woman, hearty to hearty, hearty to hearty.
All right, welcome back to podcast 226. On the podcast this week, we're talking SB5, SB3, SB, a bunch of BS is really what it is. But podcast 226 rolls on as we come back from the break. I wanted to let our viewers and listeners know about the new edition of Blaze Magazine. Blaze Weekly News, of course, the podcast, the magazine's monthly, and the new magazine is coming out, I guess, tomorrow. And I thought we would share with viewers the new one. We just got our hands on it. The Chronicle picks it up. They got it today, delivered to them, guys. So the new issue is here, and we actually have it. We're going to preview and just show you kind of what we did, something a little different with the publication. Something I've had these before, where we've had a tabloid size before, but this is a much larger version than we had with the little 8.5 by 11 glossy. But we print these with our friends over at Community Impact, and they're really nice quality tabloid newsprints. I've printed with them before on the sports magazine I did some years ago, but I thought I would share this as just kind of a preview. And I got to say, shout out to Rod Kight, because many of the art, Rod's probably had done about five covers. I've stolen Rod's artwork about 5 times over the last 9 months with some of his great artwork. But that's a little clip there. I thought I would share this with viewers. We'll be able to pick these up in San Antonio and Austin, and sporadically there in a little bit of Houston this weekend. So there's the latest edition there of Blaze Magazine. What's that, Colton?
There's a handsome guy on the front right there. Look at that. That's Stone Slade.
Stone Slade. He's one of our writers, and Stone Slade actually. That's a cool. Have you seen his docuseries?
Absolutely. Yeah, High Road's going to be incredible. That is a great concept.
It's kind of like the Anthony Bourdain No Reservations for cannabis industry, and so that's his show.
He'd probably kill me for saying this, but he's from Modern Dads, from A&E. I don't know if anybody watched.
I didn't recognize him from that.
Modern Dads on A&E.
Okay.
Stone Slade is on there, man. That's how I really knew of Stone Slade before I met him. And yeah, dude, he's a great guy, man. He's awesome.
He's super awesome. One of my buddies, I went to high school with him. My buddies, Miles Lewis, went to high school with him down there at Austin High, and I called Stone yesterday to tell him, hey, don't be surprised if you start getting some calls over the weekend when this goes out. But you know where he was? He was in Rome.
Yeah,
Poor guy.
He lives on the high road. You can't slow this guy down.
Yeah, you can't slow him down at all. All right. Let's get back to the conversation. But there's the magazine. Check it out this weekend, guys, around smoke shops and CBD stores. Blazed Magazine. I wanted to ask Rod and Colton, are they really are just suckling from the teat of the alcohol marijuana operators? I keep hammering that home. But Rod, are these lawmakers going to bend? And because like I say, I mean, their checks cleared last spring. So what's really ultimately, what's the payoff here for our fellow Texans, and where do we go with the House? This is a very I'm trying to wrap my head around this process, and I think I've gotten a good handle on it, but man, I just really didn't see a repeat of SB3 rolling out as SB5. Colton, Rod, any of you want to comment on that?
Well, let's look what Governor Abbott said when he when he vetoed. He said he wants a regulatory framework. Okay, so starting right off the bat, regulatory, not a prohibition. And he wanted three things. He wanted to ban access to cannabinoid hemp products for people under 21. He wanted to outlaw synthetic cannabinoids like Delta 8. And he wanted to limit the THC potency to either 0.3 or 3 milligrams per serving. Now, some of that's a little bit weird, right? But the bottom line is, and the point I want to stress is that Abbott said, I'm vetoing this, and you come back to me with a regulatory proposal. And to your point, we're just seeing the same play, like Colt said, same play. Let's ban it, let's ban it. So I think the prohibitionists are taking this as a second, third, fourth, whatever bite at the apple, and they've lost before. It has been some nail biters, but I'm confident that they're going to lose again. But there's some deep pockets pushing back right now. So it really is sort of common sense, what the governor said, and the will of the people, including thousands of small businesses versus a handful of really moneyed interests that don't want this.
Rachel, I think that this is really affecting their political careers. I mean, I think that people are not going to forget this in the primaries, and this is just something that Texans want, and you can see how ridiculous they're bumbling over themselves, Colton. I mean, you could see this. This is not hard to read through the bullshit.
So I don't pay attention to political statements, especially from the governor, who has to get the whole he's going to legalize recreational marijuana in Texas debacle. He's got to get that off his back. I only look at what's actually happening, watching the bills go through this process, making sure we show up to testify. It's going to be more important now than ever. The stumbling and bumbling, it's your conscience. You don't truly all the way believe this. There's an outside force. There are things that make people, if you can't use logic or reason sometimes because of outside forces and pressure, it can put your back against the wall, and you have to get very defensive. You have to quickly make an argument for something and defend something. I just look at the way that they're acting now on this third try in this session alone to ban stuff. That they can't adapt because of outside forces like donations, political pressure from Dan Patrick. What's going to happen next session if I'm going to run for re-election? It's a lot. It's a whole lot.
They're probably just ready for this to be over.
Sure they are. Sure.
Right.
Did y'all see Senator Nathan Johnson introduced a full reform package yesterday where SB 53 and 54 go hand in hand to help regulate and decriminalize? Was this a breath of fresh air or just another politician taking advantage of the camera? Colton, what is your thought there?
In my opinion, it's the cameras. Anything to do with like full-on legalization or decrim or any of that, I don't even know that it would get heard. I don't even know if it would get, the light of day. So I think a lot of times people do that. There's that same bill's been filed in Texas for so long to legalize here. I just don't think this is the session. I don't think this is the time, especially coming off of this hemp battle and having all of our resources there. And like I said, hemp can win. It's federally legal. We don't need to have that marijuana or cannabis conversation so much yet. I like to make people think, hey, if you can do California or something over again, or Oklahoma, New Mexico, Oregon, how would we do it if we had no preconceived notions and no corrupt greed in government or any problems that these other markets have had? How would we do it? And I think we're doing such a great job so far. We just have to keep on the pressure. We have to show up for testimonies if there's an opportunity to get yourself heard on testimonies, give your story. We definitely need to do that. It's more important now than ever. This is for all of the marbles, 100%.
And everybody's gathering. I think is it Tuesday or Wednesday next week, Colton, that we're getting together for the House hearing?
Yeah, I would imagine it's going to be Wednesday.
Yeah, so we're asking. Last time we had over 1,000 folks come down and give testimony. Last time, let's try to get 2,000.
We need 10,000.
Yeah, let's at least double that from last time. I mean, those testimonies went way into 1 o'clock in the morning. I left. I didn't go in the day. I went down there at 6:30 or 7. I stayed from maybe 7:45 to midnight, and I hung out down there and submitted written testimony, actually, as well as some magazines I submitted.
Yeah.
For HB 28. But Rod, do you think the governor will just veto this again, Rod Kight, or do you think this is he going to keep sending these guys back to session if they keep bouncing these regulatory bans?
Yeah,
in front
it's
of him.
becoming a little bit of high stakes, right? If the legislature sends another bad bill, will Abbott veto? I like to think that he would, and sends it back. Just sort of elevating the stakes. I mean, obviously there's a solution to this, which is to regulate it. And Colton, I appreciate your comments on Johnson's bill. I think when I'm talking to clients, a lot of times there's this perception that decriminalizing marijuana is going to be good for the industry.
Right.
Now, I'm an advocate for the plant, and I think and in one sense, any sort of liberation, progress is progress. On the other hand, a decrim bill doesn't do anything, in
Right.
terms of an industry, in terms of the things that we need. We need to make sure that minors aren't getting access. We need to make sure that products are made quality control, and we need to make sure that there's consistency in labeling and marketing and that type of thing, so adults can choose to use what products they want to use. Decrim doesn't do that. It just says, hey, if I've got a bag of weed, then I'm not, it's up to a certain amount, I'm not going to get busted. How does that help our industry? It doesn't. And so I think it's important to read through that and to see that that's not a solution to what we're looking at.
Right.
We're way beyond that, really. Colton, you made a good point about if we could go back and do things differently. Well, would we do another California or Washington or wherever? And I think the answer is no. I mean, you hear that from the folks in California, and I think it was a historic time, and they didn't know what to expect. And there's also a lot of, we'll deal with anything you throw at us, just let us have legal weed. And nowadays we know, it's normalized. We realize what regulations are appropriate and what aren't. And so this is a real. How many times with a product category, to use that broadly, do we get a second bite at the apple? And really, hemp is an opportunity to right the wrongs of the way that marijuana legalization rolled out.
Absolutely. We should write a book, Rod. We need to write a book.
I would love that. That sounds great, Colton.
New
Y'all
York Times
should.
bestseller.
Yeah, and I want to chime in about
Right.
the decriminalization. Like, I totally get what Rod is saying about, like, it's not a solution for the industry. Like, totally it isn't. But at the same time, there's the most dangerous thing about weed is getting caught with it. Let's be honest.
Yeah.
And I love in Texas that we've had the decriminalization movement that, like, in Austin, for example, San Marcos, that it has been put to a vote on a ballot. Like, we can't do that at a state level, but we've seen a real effort at the local level, and the Texas Cannabis Collective has been huge in that effort. And so I still think, like, decriminalization is a great thing at the end of the day, like, locally.
And the other day, their House Bill 195 was put together by Representative Jessica Gonzalez, the Democrat from Dallas, making cannabis legal for adults. And then HB 195 would allow adults to possess up to 2.5 ounces of cannabis with no more than 15 grams of that being concentrated in form. And, I don't suppose the 20 senators that voted for SB 5 are going to go for that at all, of course. Yeah. But, it's interesting these bills come in, but, nothing really happens, with some of these. That's just frustrating to hear that you hear a great bill come out, but, no support for it.
Yeah, nothing's going to happen.
You gotta have that. You gotta have things that come from all the different angles that can be debated on. You try to. I appreciate all of the sentiments of trying to put something good for this plant forward. I just think that that's not the conversation that Texas is going to have for a little bit. And we have the federal thing coming inevitably. It's obviously held up here, but there might be some changes inevitably in the future. So, we don't need to make the big grandstand on the marijuana right now when we have a great, completely legal hemp program, one of the largest in the U.S. and potentially the world if things can go our way. So.
Well, what do you guys think that's most important now going into next week with this, coming down there to get testimony? We really need to get together and let them hear us at this House session next week and let our voices be heard. I was a part of that. I haven't spoken at one of these yet, Colton, but maybe I should get down there and sign up, man. And
I say we need 10,000 people. I'm not joking.
10,000.
We need to make sure that something has to be done. Either they have to hear every single last one of these Texans that has something to say about this product or this industry, or we make them look like really bad people and cut us off, or play with that hearing setting to get us out of there. But We do. We need everybody. We need every Texan, even if
a lot of veterans. I've been hearing the call for more veterans to come out down.
You
down
don't
there
have
and
to be a user or a consumer to fight for personal rights and liberties here in Texas. You don't have to be a hemp consumer or a pothead or any of that to stand up for what's right for potentially your neighbor, your grandma, friends and family that do depend on these products for their livelihood. You're not going to be labeled a pothead. Please wear a tie. Things like that. So you can come down there and make a statement and tell a story and know that Texans of all walks of life want to keep hemp legal and available. And the regulation that is being proposed, that's common sense, everybody agrees with.
Rod Kight, have you had any experience over as an attorney in this kind of in the trenches of the battle for cannabis? Have you seen any other states go, a second, third session on something like this? I've never seen one go a third, but I know Jay McGuire, who's my political editor for Texas Hemp Reporter, says that this can go 3-4 times.
Yeah, I love Jay. Jay's a font of knowledge about lots of things, frankly. But I've fought in different ways, mostly through litigation and sort of advocacy. I work with lobbyists. But, I think Texas is unusual in a lot of ways. First of all, it has one legislative session, or at least a main one, every 2 years, right? I think every other state has legislative sessions every year. Some cut off, some just kind of go on and on.
Sure.
So that's unique to Texas. And calling a special session, other states do that. But I am not aware off the top of my head of another state calling a second session. What we do see, though, and we've seen this with Florida and some other states, is that, you'll have a vigorously fought battle. Hemp will come out on top, and then the very next year comes right back around. It's not a special session, but then there's another big, huge battle because they keep trying to put the genie back in the bottle. And it's just, there might be some wins here and there, but the thrust of history is, the momentum is really for these products to be legal, and they will be. It's just a matter of the timing and what it looks like from a regulatory standpoint.
Well, stay right there, guys. We're going to take another quick break and come back in 2 minutes and continue the conversation. If you got a comment you'd like to leave below, or maybe a question for Rod or for Colton, shout that out in the comments, and we'll try to get that to you guys on the other side. And we'll come back and continue this again. The big hearing next week. So rally the troops. Colton says, let's get 10,000 down there.
Yeah, bring everybody. Let's bring a pack of lunch. We'll be there a while.
Let's do this thing. So we'll probably go down there, pass out some magazines, and hang out but good conversation. Our guest, Rod Kight, Colton Luther. Be back in 2 minutes. Blaze Weekly News.
Green Botanicals, your #1 source for CBD, THC, and hemp-based products in Texas. Located in New Braunfels, Seguin, and San Antonio, Texas. Our CBD dispensary offers state and federally legal THC. Green Botanicals has been voted best CBD dispensary in New Braunfels, Texas, offering gummies, flower, beverages, and alternative medicine that is ushering in a greener future to the Lone Star State. Green Botanicals is your #1 source for education on the health and wellness benefits of THCA, CBD, and other legal hemp products in New Braunfels, Seguin, San Antonio, and the surrounding areas. Showcasing the best hemp flower bar in Texas. Stop on by and let our knowledgeable staff guide you in the right direction. Stop by our store or visit us online at greenbotanicals.com. That's GRUENE, botanicals.com.
Sergi and Associates specialize in cannabis and hemp law cases here in Texas. Has your store been raided? Do you require municipal litigation? Seeking to trademark your brand? David Sergi is an international cannabis lawyer, and he represents businesses throughout the cannabis industry. Sergi represents clients across the United States and is regularly quoted on cannabis matters in the media. The new website from his team is txhemplaw.com. If you're new to the Texas market and hemp or cannabis industry, look no further than Sergi and Associates. Their legal team offers a broad range of legal practices, providing cost-effective, top-shelf legal representation with a big firm punch in a personal, small firm environment, specializing in hemp, criminal, business structure law, and civil litigation. Texas hemp laws are always evolving. Call Sergi and Associates at 512-392-5010. That's 512-392-5010. Or visit txhemplaw.com.
All right, welcome back to podcast number 226. We're going on our fifth anniversary of the podcast. We started, I believe, September 7th of 2020 as the Texas Hemp Show podcast. And we used to do that, Colton, over at a place called, where was that? Carl, what was that studio called?
That was a South Terminal.
Oh, Takeoff Terminal Studios was a little recording studio in East Austin.
Terminal Studio.
Yeah, it was Takeoff Terminal, and we used to go over there and rent the time and do it over there, but it was audio only at the time, then we eventually kind of just started doing our show here from my office in Round Rock, and we built that up. But yeah, you've got a great studio set up. Your buddy, you were telling us during the commercial break that he's designed a number of popular podcasts, including Rogan's studio. So tell us about that studio and your podcast for a minute or two, and then I got you got an announcement you want to tell us how your day went earlier today.
We can drop some bombs later. Yeah, Rod will love that one too. So the Texas Growers Podcast, guys. Check out the Texas Growers Podcast if you ever want. Different to the way that the Texas cannabis story was being told. And that's really what the Texas Growers Podcast is. I'd love to have Rod on anytime, virtual, non-virtual. Yeah, I would love to do that. And it just has taken off. And what I did was similar to you, start somehow.
Yeah.
Do the minimal viable thing, get it going, start getting the audience built. And then I did it with my iPhone and kind of my own mics that I could put together. And it was in a box that I took around everywhere. And I sent that over to Matt at Soundshed Studios, and I said, listen, dude, I'm going to do this podcast and do this show. I think that's a huge value to what I'm doing. I think it's going to be really popular. And he was like, well, you shouldn't do it like that. And so he said, come over here to the studio, and he has this public studio off 71 here in Austin. So if you're out there looking to start a show or do any content for your business, go check out Soundshed Studios or rent their room if you'd like. A lot of the greats have walked the halls of Soundshed, and they're famous for Joe Rogan's studio, Alex Ramosi, Your Mom's House. I mean, any comedian or influencer, pretty much they built their whole setup.
We're outgrowing our little studio here in Round Rock, but we've built this all custom here in my little office, and we're running out of room, and my lease ends in October, so I don't know what we're going to do. But
give them a call. They have a lot of solutions, and they would love to do it with you.
Well, tell Rod and the rest of the audience tuning into the show tonight who your meeting was with earlier today. I got to say, I was a little jealous.
So I mean, here's the thing. I mean,
how did it go with the governor today, Colton? Spoke to the governor today only, Rod.
That's pretty impressive. I'd love to hear how that conversation.
How'd that go?
I gotta get a disclaimer here. My ego really is like this big. I just so happened to be connected to the right people. A lot of this was not my own doing. It wasn't my own personal private meeting. But I felt very honored and compelled to make sure that I stood up and towed the line for the industry for everything that we've been fighting for 6 months plus 6 years, really. And so we were fortunate enough to get 45 minutes, which led to be an hour with the man himself, Governor Greg Abbott. And he did. He came in and listened to us. He came in and wanted to make sure that we were getting to the right solutions, not wasting any time, not adding lines of text or kill pills or whatever in the legislation, and just getting to something that's effective, that protects minors and protects unsuspecting adults even, but allows Texas businesses and commerce to thrive. We want to make sure that I think the consensus is making sure that everyone tells the story of how this affects them and the economy and the community around them, not so much how much money we can make off of it or anything like that. We want to tell the true impact that this plant and these products are having, and that's what we want to bring to the testimonies. But he was very, very receptive of us, the things we go through, the knowledge we had in our certain fields, and he took all of that in, and obviously, as we've seen in the past, will make a very informed, legal, judicial-minded decision on how to go forward with everything.
Well, that sounds pretty
I can't
positive.
think of a better. Sorry, I just can't think of a better person than Colton to do that. I'm so happy.
Stop.
To get that.
He's trying to get me to move to North Carolina. Stop it! Stop it!
Right. No, I mean you have such a good demeanor, combined with a deep sense of experience and knowledge about this industry. So I'm glad, and to meet with the governor for an hour. I mean that's
at this
huge.
pivotal time.
To me,
right? That's a good point.
To me, shout out to Brian Swinson putting this together. Shout out to the guys at MC Nutraceuticals, Dave from Mood, the guys at Nowadays, CBD Pros. All of these people were there with me. I wasn't in there by myself, and by no means did I get our names on the calendar, but was able to get in, be involved in that moment. And again, I'm very honored that he took time to meet with this industry on this issue and sees its importance over the fact that we are obviously trying to get flood relief ironed out. We have a natural disaster we're recovering from, and also there's the gerrymandering, the redistricting, and all that drama that's going on. So there's plenty of things to be political about and to do theater over. And he took the time and even extended time with us to make sure that we were heard and that the right things are going to come through the legislature this round. So help us all.
Yeah, I want to talk, revisit some stuff we talked about before we went on air, because you said that Greg Abbott came in and he's like, okay, guys, we have this much time, rapid fire. He wanted to just get to the nitty gritty. Yeah.
No time wasted. I mean, think about it. There's a time clock on the session itself, and then plus there's all these other issues. So we were making sure that the right people that got put in front of him were going to be loaded with the right answers, and we're prepared for whatever may come. I think we did that. The meeting definitely, I think, hit that nail on the head for sure for Texas, and a lot of insightful conversation came from that. And it's surreal that it's come to this. Thanks, Rod, for the compliment. Seriously, I've taken it way more serious as things have progressed. That if you're called to do something, there's probably a reason. And it's been that way over this industry for time and time again, whether it's individual interactions with a person, or times when we should be banned and wiped off the face of the earth, or we should, we're going belly up bankrupt. We shouldn't make it till next month. Whatever the problem may be, we always find ourselves on the other side. I think there's always been a reason for that. And I think that this all kind of culminates and proves that that's
well, I can give testament to that as a business owner. you get kind of drawn into something, and then it becomes, a real calling for you, know, and a kind of a sense of purpose about it. And I've always pushed the envelope with culture as a magazine publisher and in my radio programs. But coming in, 5-6 years ago into this, you get real passionate about it because we've always been a cannabis fans of the plant for the last 30 years or so, at least. But it's just you get thrown into this, and it becomes a part of your livelihood. You build relationships and colleagues, and you just feel like a calling to have a voice. And
I was there in that room for thousands of other business owners, thousands of farmers. Really, I was there to toe the line for farmers and testing protocols and stuff like that. I would have made Rod proud for sure. But just to toe the line for those guys who their hands are dirty right now. They're busy. They're business owners. They didn't have the time. I have the time. I have the schedule. Thankfully, to be able to work on some of this stuff and be there when someone needs to go in and talk to the governor and represent. I know what all of these folks want me to say. I've been practicing it for 6 months straight, basically.
Well,
I just want to jump in that I was encouraged that Colton said that like the other side, like the mad moms, like they're not getting these meetings.
Right, and they're very open about that. They're not getting these. The door's not open the same way to them, and that
Aubrey Adams isn't sitting there brainwashing the governor. We can be sure.
No, they're not allowed in press conferences. They're not allowed to go to certain meetings, and they're not getting calls back from certain offices. But because that's not banning it in that side, it may be valid. I feel for you. You have been affected. I'm not taking that for granted, but that's not the solution, and that's not the way forward. We can't just ignore something that's out there.
Let me jump over to culture, guys. I wanted to mention nearly 4 out of 5 Texas voters have backed regulated legal hemp products. Recent poll shows. A poll was conducted last week on the 24th through the 27th by McLaughlin Associates, and that's a Republican-based polling institute. The poll found broad bipartisan support of regulated hemp, with 75% of Republicans and 81% Democrats and 82% of independents that were polled backing the legal sale of consumable hemp here in Texas. Rod, it's evident the culture is speaking and crying, hey, let's get this done. And it sounds like, the governor's paying more attention to the polls than senior members of the Senate.
Yeah, this is a conversation I have pretty regularly. You think about the vision that we're sold, through social media and the news and whatnot. But, whether that's real or not, or how deep it is, there's one truth, and that is cannabis is the great uniter. And our politicians are not hearing it. And it's really strange as to why they're not hearing it. What do you do when you have a supermajority across, again, you said Republicans, independents, and Democrats, a supermajority? The special session shouldn't even be happening. It should just be bam, 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 regulated. Let's move on and get on with our summer. But for some reason, the politicians aren't hearing that. And it's probably some combination of, not having the facts, this past session in particular, Texas, the industry's done a great job of educating. And it's also having to do with deep pockets of interest that are opposed to us. And I talk, prohibitionists are often sort of the loudest voices, but most people are not prohibitionist. The opponents are typically moneyed interests with a very specific strategy that they want to accomplish. So anyway, it's strange, but that is great news. What's it finally going to take 100% across the board, before we get the politicians to listen? I don't know. It's crazy.
Well, I always like to say this. They stirred the wrong beehive on this. And with how united we've been in such a united front, and something to piggyback off of, being able to get this messaging all the way to the top, to the big guy, we every single person, every industry leader out there that's shown up and put hours in, every person like Lucas and all these other at all these different organizations, people who have lobbied on every Tuesday, every single person who's put effort into this to pass the message and mobilize people and tell their story and come in and testify, it worked unequivocally. I have had proof this morning, even though I didn't need it. I knew it was working. This is something that we can continue to do, and we have a ton of leverage here by doing that. And it works. So everything that we've done for 6 months is not in vain. It is actually just validated by some of the information that I was allowed to get today firsthand. And if we continue to toe the line and we continue to run our winning playbook while they run the losing playbook, that's easy football right there. You know what I mean?
Listen, great show, guys. I got to wrap in about 90 seconds. Rod, what's next for you, sir? Fire off your website. I saw you and David are working on a new thing called thca.law. Is I see that right?
Savage.
That's right. Well, my good friend and colleague, David Sergi, reached out to me and he said, we're doing a lot of cases together. We've got a lot of crossover in clients and issues, and we're both, representing people throughout the country. Let's put together a team. And man, it's a fantastic team of attorneys that have come together to help people, throughout the country, and everyone has different sort of strengths and focuses. We do a lot of compliance work and advocacy work. David's team does quite a bit of litigation and some criminal defense. Morgan Davis, another colleague of mine from North Carolina, has really deep knowledge and skills with licensing and other things. So anyway, THCA.law. We're really happy about this organization and want to help the hemp industry.
And the cool thing is that it's not what you think, THCA. It's Texas Hemp, Cannabis, and Cannabis Attorneys.
Oh, that's clever.
Yeah,
It's actually it's great.
Thing. Yeah,
it's a great marketing. I love where you're going with that. I thought a great play on the words there. But thank you, sir, for being on the show. And then Colton, fire off your website, Colton, and just tell folks. You guys. I know you partner with Jeremy Greens. Jeremy's got an ad in the magazine this month for the. So I'm going to send you home with some magazines as well. Yeah. But fire off your podcast and your business, and tell folks how they can. Learn more about you, sir.
Totally. Texas Growers Podcast. Check that out on YouTube. Don't need a website for that. I got YouTube to carry all that weight for me. Go check me out on YouTube, Texas Growers Podcast. Make sure you subscribe. We got a lot of good content in the vault that is coming out rapidly. Obviously, there's a lot of developments. We're trying to stay up on that. So definitely YouTube and Instagram is the way to get a hold of me. Thank you guys for having me on the longest standing news talk show, weed show, whatever you want to call it in Texas.
We're one of the longest ones. It will be 5 years in September when we got this thing going, and I want to thank Carl because Carl's been with me for a lot of it. So thank you.
Started it all.
Thanks for being around, Carl.
We pretty much built this thing, man, from the ground up. That's all I'm going to say.
Yeah, we don't have a fancy studio, but we like ours because we built it from scratch. So it's kind of cool there. But special reminder, guys, August 16th on Saturday, there's the big Alamo Bud Company's having a People versus SB3, a Texas Cannabis Revolution. I don't know if you guys are seeing the little flyer. It's kind of a wanted poster, but there's a big ad for it in the magazine, and there's going to be speakers, and folks are invited to come out there and celebrate down there. It's at the VFW Hall there in San Antonio, and kind of watch out for that Alamo Bud Company there on Instagram. And I just wanted to shout out to that because that's one of the next big events following in August 16th. That's coming up here in a few weeks. But we'll see everybody down there on on Tuesday or Wednesday, whenever we're all going to get together. Let's get 10,000 of us down there, guys. And let our voices be heard down there with the house next week, guys. Great show. Rod Kight, thank you for being a part of it, as well as you, Colton Luther. Thank you, guys. Great show. Podcast 226 wraps up. That's Rachel. I'm Russell. We'll see you next week, guys. Blaze Weekly News.
If that's what it's all about, Mama, if that's moving up, then I'm moving out. You should never argue with a crazy mama. You ought to know by now. You can pay the Sam with the overtime. Is that all you get for your money?